Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of the Crafted podcast series. My name is Chris Otundo, CEO and co-founder of the Craft Catalyst. On the Crafted podcast series, what we're trying to do is have conversations that we wish we had before we made decisions around university choices, degree choices, just the future of work. What does it portend for us in a world that's constantly changing? And decisions about traveling abroad to study, if at all that's a decision you make. And what we do is leverage different professionals, different individuals who've perhaps walked that path to try and see if we can learn from them and see if there's an opportunity for us to make better decisions. And so today's episode is kind of dedicated to parents who are just about to make that decision. You have a child at home who's finished university, finished high school rather, and you're sitting with that decision as to, do I send them abroad? In some cases, they actually approach you and say, I'd like to go abroad. Which country should we consider? I'd like to study in university. What course to do? The decision to let them go, that's a hard one for many parents. And so this episode is really dedicated to that conversation. And so to do that, I reached out to the ether and found my good friends, Kimani and Wambui, who happen to be a couple. And so honored to have them today with us. So thank you guys for joining us.
Welcome.
Yeah, asanteni sana. So look, you guys are professionals. For purposes of this conversation, we'll not go into who you work for, but I can tell my audience these are serious professionals. And you were faced with that decision. And there's a season before that you encountered that decision. Your child was going through high school. At what point did you ever think about it? Did you actually think about sending them abroad, or was it always that they would be around you until they finish university?
So we had actually thought about it, and we had talked with Kimani, and what the school did, they exposed our daughter to quite a few career fairs where universities would actually come to their universities. I mean, to the high school.
Yes.
And she would come back and was very excited. But we also asked her, "What do you want to do?" Because we didn't want a situation where we tell her what we would have aspired to do, and then she comes, gives us the degree, and says, "Now let me go and do what I want to do." So the school was quite good in doing work placements, different internships, and she was very interested in the medical field. But after doing a few stints, in different areas, she came and said, "I enjoy research." And Kimani was very good in guiding her. He said, whatever you decide to do, make sure when you wake up in the morning, you're looking forward to it. Yeah. So that passion. And then, in terms of purpose, is it something that you would see it doing greater good? So she thought about it, and one day she came and said, "I want to do biomedical research." And she said she enjoys the research bit. The school had taken them to Kemri, and she said she loved that experience. And she's quite good in biology, chemistry, and math. And that's when we said, now you do your research, come back and tell us, where you would want to go. So I'll let him, fill you in on, how she made that decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So Kimani, you made together a decision that you're going to send your child abroad. What was that like?
It was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. Usually, when you begin to think about sending somebody away, you really have to think about where and what. Because of the internships, the placement, Ashley had decided on the what. I want to do biomedical sciences. Then came the question of the where. Where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself thriving? Where are the best schools to do this? And so in typical fashion, I actually told her, listen, go do research and come back to us with 3 choices of the countries that would fit what you want to do. And of those 3 choices, I think she came back to us with Canada, Malaysia, and lastly was the US. And so when she presented us with those choices, then we began now to search for the universities to see which would be best fit for her. And I think that is what really helped us, because both of us have studied abroad. We realized very quickly that it is, as a parent, you may have a choice, but when you give ownership to your child, they own it end to end. And that is what we really hoped for her, is for her to own.
Yeah.
So she owned the degree,
Yeah.
she owned the choices, and now what was left for us was to slowly now walk through the journey of facilitating how she can get to where she wants to be.
Yeah. So listening to you guys, some very interesting nuggets there around the exposure that allowed her to refine her choice. You talked about internships, you talked about some exposures that you offered her. And then there's also the fact that you then decided that she was going to go abroad. You actually did have the option of her staying here.
Yeah.
What informed your decision to want something else? Because some people will say, why not just do it here in Kenya?
That for me was, I think, getting best practice. I believe, and I'm not knocking down Kenyan schools or the Kenyan schooling system, but best practice is normally gotten outside. That was one. Two, based on her choice, if she had come back to me and told me, look, Dad, I want to do marketing, or I want to do medicine, these are readily available here. But biomedical sciences, the research level, it's not something that's quite readily available here. And she also did that research on her own. And what she wanted for herself was to do it where it is most, in a school that's very highly ranked globally.
Yes.
So that now she can bring back that expertise
Back
to
home.
us, back home, which is also big on for her as well.
I'm curious, Wambui, Kimani, did your professional background and experiences influence the way you handle that conversation?
Absolutely. In fact, my HR, mind kicked in. So when she said she wants to do biomedical science, I looked at my network of friends. I went on WhatsApp, and then I happened to ask one of my ex-colleagues, "Do you know anyone, who has done biomedical science?" And she comes back and says, "Yes, actually, my cousin, completed her degree about 4 years ago, and she's working in the US. I can set up a call." So we did that. She gave me the phone number for her cousin. I set up the call, and I told Ashley, have some questions that you would want to ask. So this young lady, comes on camera, and she walked us through, what it was like, to do biomedical science in the US, and then the opportunities that are actually there. And you can, pivot to the pharma industry, you can go to the beauty industry, you can work in research facilities, in hospitals. And one of the things our daughter was very interested in is, post my degree, will I be able to, to land a job? And she said, yes, absolutely. And she gave us ideas, look out for the graduate programs. And I remember, when I was working at Diageo, I was in charge of, recruitment of, high caliber African graduates across the different markets. So she said, you always look out for that, look at the recruitment drives when they'll be in those particular schools. So that excited me, that excited her as well. And for her, once we were done, she was asking, so, you've worked for 4 years, what do you love about what you're doing? So she said, I am passionate about the research, and she works at Siemens Technologies. I started as an intern, and the fact that I was able to do, above and beyond what was expected of me, it has now allowed me, she's also started her own travel and tour business on the side. She told my daughter, I even have my apartment, I have my dog, things that, that would appeal to her.
Yeah.
And, once we were done with that conversation, she was excited.
Yeah.
She was really excited. And even 6 months before, or I'd say 3 months before now, she actually went, to uni before we took her. She actually started looking at her coursework for year 12 and year 13, because she had already gone to the university's website and looked at what are the courses that I'll be doing in my first year. So she was refreshing herself, looking at her notebooks, going to YouTube videos. just to refresh. And she said, for me, I want to do well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when we're talking about a week ago, she was telling me, in December I have a long holiday. I don't mind getting an internship.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think our professions have really, helped us help her just, try and make the right decisions.
Yeah.
But then you have to own those decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you will come and tell us, this is what I'm thinking, and then we will help you refine them, amplify them. But it rests with you. The accountability and ownership is with you. Yeah.
I think why that's so important and is really an anchor conversation is the choice around the career and the course to do needs to be something that is actually going to feed you
Yes.
once you're done.
Yes.
And one of the conversations we have on this podcast and generally is around the future of work and the fact that you need to do a course that allows you the range to be able to do many things
Yep.
and adjust in a world that's constantly shifting. So I like that you talked about the fact that she did research. She found someone who's already in the industry so they can tell them these are the things we're seeing playing out and these are the options you have because that's something that parents perhaps don't do. And I like that the both of you, and I know what you both do, Wambui and I actually happen to work together in the space of talent. I think the fact that she's going to a space that none of you even know anything about, or at least
Yeah.
not enough. She's probably going to be the expert, and you're willing to let her go. I think there are parents listening to us who will say, no. I know that. I know accounts, and this is what you need to do. I know medicine, this is what you need to do. I think letting your child fly and be who they really are is critical. Yeah. So you guys do a lot of research. You settle on a number of countries. What makes you land on the particular one that you landed on, which is, I suppose, Malaysia? Yeah.
So, based on a lot of conversations, her first choice was Canada, and we looked at Canada in its entirety. So we did take a look at the weather patterns, the cost of the schooling, and the basic level of education and the level of universities.
Right.
And then we took another look at where she is now, which is Malaysia. And we also did the same. So it was just three: cost of education, level of education, climate.
Right.
And I think the fourth one we did was culture. So those were four very important things to us with regards to where does she go? What is the culture that's closest to the Kenyan culture in terms of just integrity, family, what's quite close to that? Cost is a very big factor.
Yes.
And one of the discussions that Wambui and I had was you have to extrapolate the university across its entirety, the cost timeline.
Yes.
A lot of times, the era of when we were going to school, which was you go with
figure it out.
one term, you'll figure it out, right?
Yeah.
That has quickly gone awry. So we had to look at it and say, how do we manage the entirety? Can we manage the entirety of her education
Yes.
without putting additional pressure on the child?
Yes.
That was the most important one. So cost was a huge factor. And then came climate, right? Canada is great. It's a nice country, but they have very harsh winters and short summers. So it's kind of, how would she adapt to that climate? One, being a new person in that country, which adds another factor of her survival.
Right.
So those four factors we looked at and, talked about it, checked with her about it as well. And based on the fact that Malaysia is also quite upcoming and the school that she selected was also very well known for biomedical sciences, we landed on that fact. And she also had an input in it. So she also had to take a hard look, and she also came up and said, look, of these four things, I feel I'd be more comfortable in Malaysia.
Yeah.
And that's how we ended up with Malaysia.
I'm supposed to give our audience a little bit more context. We're talking about a quarter of the price to take your child through university of that in Canada, Australia. That is the cost it is to take your child to Malaysia.
Yes.
Almost a quarter.
Yes.
For medicine, for engineering, all these courses. And I think that's really quite something. And you talked about culture, which very few people talk about. I think we're so concerned about the fact that those countries are developed, which all the options you gave are, ring true that they are all developed, but the culture element.
Yeah.
What I found, and I was discussing with my business partner when we went to Malaysia in January, that in the malls you see families working together.
Yes.
Grandmother, mother, daughter. You know, and there's the African culture persists there.
Yes.
You know, of love for family, of being together, of respect, and those are things that matter. I think a lot of some of the countries that we consider, for some reason they've forgotten the foundations of family, and this is critical. So I find that very interesting. Of course, there's security.
Yes.
This has become a real concern today. You know, the geopolitics of the world today. Will your child be safe in those countries that they go to? I think I was telling you guys earlier that Malaysia is ranked 13 on the Global Peace Index. You know, very interesting. And also in terms of, there's they call it QS University Rankings. They happen to be 12th globally again. So very interesting that perhaps people should research this country that you finally settled on, which we also happen to be representing. I think is quite interesting how well they're doing. So look, you settled on the course, you settled on the country. It was now time to decide, okay, let's pay this fees and let's go. Any fears as you make that decision?
Yeah, I think for me the biggest fear, you know, for my firstborn, our firstborn daughter was, she's introverted. She's like me. So, you know, when you're introverted, it takes a while, you know, for you to open up, socialize, make new friends. So for me, I think the biggest thing was, you know, would she be okay? She's not as social. So that was my biggest fear. However, one of her best friends from high school was also going, you know, to Malaysia, and their universities are like 5 kilometers apart. So I knew they would, you know, see each other quite often. But to also alleviate that fear, one of the things that we also did was we allowed her to play quite a few sports. Because you find that, you know, the more exposed you are to different sports, then you widen your social network, because you can go to a tennis court, find someone, hit a few balls, and then, you know, strike a conversation. So, you know, to alleviate that, the last 3-4 months were intense, and it was I was intentional on that. So I made sure, you know, we played tennis, paddle, you know, she could play at intermediate level. Badminton, we would do it, you know, at home, because she was quite good. And then also cooking. Yeah.
She'll need to cook.
Yeah, she'll need to cook. So the last 3 months, in fact, he suggested, Kimani said, no, you need to be picking something that you're going to cook for us. Yeah. And so she would say that, you know, and we told her, pick your favorite meals. Yeah. So if it's pilau, if it's butter chicken and naan, you need to, you know, be able to do that. My only thing was just make sure you have as many greens and have a balanced diet. So that was my initial fear. You know, how will she settle? Will she be able to socialize, make friends? So that was my biggest thing.
Right.
Yeah. That's what kept me up at night. Yeah.
Usually in a couple, I happen to be in one of those setups as well. One person decides faster than the other one. Who was that between the two of you? Who was more comfortable?
I think it was him.
Yeah. So I was more comfortable because I've traveled extensively with Ashley.
Right.
And one of the things I always did with her when we traveled, I think we've done about 3 or 4 trips together abroad.
Right.
And one of the things I always used to do with her is we'd get to an airport and I'd tell her, look, we're in transit. You show me.
Show me the way.
Show me the way.
Yeah.
You can look at your boarding pass, tell me where you're going. Tell me where we're going to board, how long we have, what we need to do. And one of the things I'd always brought her up to do is do not be afraid to ask questions. And so for me, my fear was, would she have all these lessons in her when she got here that we had built up? Would she be able to action this? But even before she left, she was very courageous. Like she'd say, look, mom and dad, I'm going to toy market to look for stuff. And of course, mom would be worried. And me, I'd be like, yeah, go. You know, take a matatu if you need to take a matatu. Be careful on if you're taking a motorbike, be careful what you're doing. If you're taking an Uber, let us know where you are on that Uber. But I think it's laying the foundation that by the time she gets there, you're comfortable enough to be able to, you're confident in what you've taught.
Yeah.
My fear was, would she be able to action what we taught?
Yeah.
But other than that, I was very okay, because even on our trip there, she was the one who was doing a lot of the navigation in Qatar airport, because I was like, we've been here before. Me, I'm not going to stress myself. You show us.
You show us.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting. And we had that conversation earlier. As you make this decision, you really do need to evaluate as a parent, how well have you prepared your child?
Yes.
Because children will be different.
Yeah.
And we were saying earlier, if your child has a penchant for too much fun and is not as disciplined, then you might need to think 2 times about that decision and maybe give them a little bit more time to mature. In your case, your child is very disciplined, can be focused, and so you assessed and saw that this is a safe decision. And I think that's really really commendable for you guys. Congratulations. Look, so now we've prepared, we've selected the university, we've decided it's Malaysia. You guys do the very noble thing of taking your child
Yes.
to Malaysia.
Yes.
Some of us went ourselves. But you get onto the plane together with her to escort her. And so you're experiencing Malaysia together with her the first time. What was Malaysia like when you arrived?
When we arrived, I think the first thing, that struck me, even at the airport, very modern, because we had passed through Doha, Al Hamad airport, and I loved the botanical, it's beautiful. So something similar, we saw that in Malaysia, but very clean, and orderly. And what I liked is, as soon as we arrived, that's when I realized, actually, parents had to go to one side, and she had to check in at the International Student Academic Center at the airport. And they ask for your visa approval, all your documentation. So initially, I was the one carrying it.
Yes.
I had to give
still
her...
being mommy.
Yeah, still being mommy. So give her passport, give her everything. And we had to wait. You actually wait, they clear her, and then now you go for yellow fever documentation to be verified. So for me, it was very orderly. And then after that, now international students have their own lines. They had like 3 or 4 lines. And then any other person, go to your other line. So we told her, let's meet at that point. And for her, she cleared very quickly. And we found her waiting, And at that point, of course, we are all on WhatsApp.
This was you beginning to be made to practice.
Yes.
Letting go.
Letting go.
Yeah.
And so we cleared immigration, found her on the other side. And the first thing I asked, did they stamp? She's like, yes, everything is fine.
Chill,
He
Mom.
was not worried.
Yeah.
I think it's also because of, the number of trips they had taken together. So I think that was my initial, first reaction.
So you land, I suppose there's a lot of logistics around it, but I think the more important one is the school that you went to. I think you had done your research. It's all on brochures, perhaps online. Did it meet your expectations, the school that you found that you had researched?
Yes. I think it's 2 things. It was the school and the accommodation. So once, I'll go back to her story just a bit to segue into it.
Sure.
So you experience the order at the airport. And then we get into a cab and we quickly rush to get her into her accommodation before we even touch the school. And for me, what I realized, what really gave me more confidence is when we got to her residence, which is very close to the school, it was 6 suitcases, Wambui, Ashley, Dad has to, in usual fashion, Dad has to carry the bags. And so I'm like, guys, I have to get you to the room. And as we were passing through the checkpoints at the residence, I got to a certain point and I was told, listen, you cannot go beyond this point as a man.
Wow.
And my question is, I was like, no, but I'm the father.
I'm done paying.
I'm the one paying. Yes, typical Ken, I'm paying. I want to see the room.
Yeah.
And the residence goes like, I understand you're the father, but there are other girls in the dorms.
Right.
And you might, culturally, we will not allow you to be in such a situation. And that just lifted a weight off my back.
Right.
And I was like, we made the right choice. And so that was, waited a few days, went to the university now, saw the facilities, were given a tour of the facilities, went through her registration process. And again, the order we experienced at the airport is the same order. It's the same level of order. It's the same level of efficiency. It's documents, this, that, the other. And they're very helpful in terms of putting you in that order. So once you experience that, even in the school, it's like it gives you that confidence of, this is actually a very orderly place and they are very well structured and you actually get value for what you paid for.
What surprised you guys most about this university and just generally Malaysia?
I think when we went there on Monday for her orientation, everyone was very friendly, yeah. But I think what I liked at her accommodation, at her residence, in the cafeteria, they have a pillar, and they say what 1,500 calories looks like. So they say if you have a breakfast, with pancakes and this, it's 500 calories. If your snack is this. And I've been on this health journey with my entire family, and I was so excited. I was showing them, you actually know what you're eating. So for me, that was really good. And then there's a canopy that connects the residents to the university. And as you're walking, it says, walking is healthy, you're almost there, keep at it. So the first thing, that, came to my mind is they're also very conscious about, your physical health, your mental well-being, in terms of what they're saying you need to do. So for me, that was really good. And then also just the friendliness, at the university. And what I liked is in the afternoon, they had, different activities, almost like a fun fair, where if you're interested in sports, let's meet at this time. If you're interested in art, let's meet at this time. Then they had different international representation. They'd say if you're of this descent, this is your representative. If you're from, India, Bangladesh, if you're, so it gave us a sense of comfort. Yeah. And then there's a sign that was almost everywhere saying that we will not tolerate, first of all, there's no smoking, no vaping, no sexual harassment, no racial discrimination. Wow. If you experience this, report it immediately. And that stood out. You would actually see it almost everywhere. Right. And it was refreshing, to see that. And any student you stop, by the way, to ask for, where's the finance office or where's this, very helpful. Yeah. They would say, go this particular way. So I think for me, that was one good surprise. Yeah, that I liked.
Managed to, sorry to cut you short, you managed to be on the streets as well, and then experience the food. What again surprised you, Kimani, as you, had you been to Malaysia before?
No, I hadn't.
Yeah.
I think what surprised me about the food, and I kept saying this, was, first of all, the fact that the fast food is not that expensive, right? That's the first thing that surprised me. But even more was the fact that there were so many healthy options for food. Very many healthy and tasty options, and affordable.
Did you guys get to do street food?
No. We did.
I should have been there with you.
No. We actually did. But it was at where we were staying. There was a cafeteria where I bought. So a few nights we'd get like the chicken, the pork from there. It's almost like the street food menu.
Correct.
And for me, that was a surprise. The fact that A, street food is very clean.
Yes.
B, it is quite affordable.
Absolutely.
And C, it's very healthy. So for me, the food scene was amazing in that sense, right? It's like these guys take extra care with the food. And then that is what explained, and I was telling Wambui, now this explains why fast food is not that expensive, because you have so many options.
Competition.
So many options, and in addition to that, it's also very close to home food. So you can have a vegetable stew.
Correct.
A different name, but you can have that. You can have a lot of rice. You can have duck. You can have pork. You can have chicken. So the options are varied.
Yeah.
Food is very close to home, and it's very, very healthy and clean.
Yeah.
Which for me was like, okay, you can walk to any street vendor, get food, and go eat without any worries.
Yeah. So I imagine for you, Kimani, when you went to the security point and they were like, a man is not allowed here, that was your moment for she'll be fine.
Yes.
What about for you, Wambui? When did you know, okay, my baby will be okay?
Yeah, when did I realize that? So, I think day 3, we're still there. She tells me, I tell her there are 2 parents who've reached out to me. Their daughters are also here. And other African students and Kenyan students in that university. So I sent her the number. So I said, I'm not going to follow up. I hope, she will connect with them. Then the next day she tells me I connected with them. Yeah, so I'm like, oh, I'm very proud of you. The one thing I wanted to do with her, because I carried the rackets. I carried for paddle and for tennis. I had done some research online and found some places that were close to where we were. So we went and played paddle together. And it was just the 2 of us. It's better played with 4 people, but it was the 2 of us. And the guy who was attending to us was saying, look, because she's a student, you only pay 60 ringgit for 1 hour. So I was telling her 60 divided by 4 is 15 ringgit if you came with 3 other friends. So it's even a lot cheaper than here in Nairobi. And that's when, and she told me, I've really enjoyed it. I left her with the 2 rackets, and I told her, I pray that you will find, someone, who will play with you. And that's when I knew, because we've taken this Grab together. It's like an Uber. We know the distance. It's quite close. She went and engaged the attendant and asked, when do you usually have, different people coming in? And she told me, I've actually really enjoyed myself. And this was like on a Wednesday. We were leaving on Friday. And, that's when I told him, at least even if we didn't get to play tennis, we played paddle together. We took pictures. I told him, I just want to, have this moment, with her. So he took pictures of us. I know he was working. He was on a work call at that time. But we had 1 hour together. And the fact that she said, and genuinely, when we went now to the bathroom, just to freshen up before we left, she told me through the mirror, I'll really miss you. And for me, I didn't want to cry. I said, I'll miss you too. And it was genuine, it was straight from the heart. Yeah. And I said, I'll really miss you, but I know you'll be okay. Yeah. And I told her, for your mental wellness, do what we were doing in Nairobi. Right. Yeah, every other day, look for a sporting activity. If you don't get someone to play this sport with you, where you are, there's a gym, there's a pool. Yeah, you can actually go there and use those facilities. But when she told me, I'll miss you, I was like, I'll miss her too, but she'll be okay.
I may need a tissue as well at this point. And so we have to leave her at some point and come back home. How was that?
That was tough.
Yeah.
In fact, he kept telling me, are you okay? When we were in Nairobi, we had her grandparents came to pray for her. And, everyone had, some words of wisdom for her. And they kept saying, you have to be focused. Go do what you're supposed to do and then move on, right? Either come to Kenya or you can work anywhere. So it took me, and then I remember the pastor who was there, I just told him, just pray for her. I want her to be okay. Because I remember when I was going to do my master's, we had a similar gathering where we had, my grandparents came, they prayed, they gave me a Bible. So I remember saying, when I was given a chance to talk, I told them that I pray that by the time we're leaving Ashley on that Thursday evening, that I'll leave her with some friends. And it so happened, the friends now that she had met, the 2 and then her other, her best friend, we had dinner. that Thursday evening. And I think we were together from about 7:30 to 9:30. And for us, it was important to just look at the dynamics in that group. And, we're saying, oh yeah, this one is very social. This one will be good for this. And I was asking them, what are your aspirations? What are your fears? And we told them, each of you, make sure you register with the embassy here if anything happens. So, being a parent, but also just stepping back so that we don't overwhelm them. And I remember 2 of her friends don't stay at the residence. So they took a cab and left. And then we went with one of her friends in the same cab. And at the residence, past 10 p.m., no visitors allowed. Wow. Yeah. So we had to say our goodbyes there at the gate. So one of her friends, we said bye, and then now she came and sat with us. And you could tell that I could see some sadness. Yes. So she sat and, he blessed her. He told her, Kimani said, I know you'll do well. I know you're focused. And you're an intelligent young lady. So everything that we have done, from the time you were a young girl to now, this is it. You will do well. And he told her that, if anything happens, even if you get into trouble, yes, we'll get upset, but tell us, so that we can navigate this with you. I think for me, it was just saying, I love you. I will miss you. Call me. Yeah. And I have that picture. We took a selfie when she was, going, as she was leaving. And for me, I was just, I didn't even break down. Yeah. No. I was okay. Yeah. But I think there's another section I'll tell you that it wasn't very easy now when I was in Nairobi. Yes. But there I was okay. And the reason I was okay is with the 3 friends that I saw the dynamics, I saw the chemistry. I knew each of them would gel for different things. There's one for studying, one for sports, cooking. So I knew she would be okay. So I was okay. And then in the morning, I had made some vegetables where we were staying. So I brought them to her, told her, put them in the fridge. Yeah. I had some apples and oranges. I give them, and I made sure, have you put them in the fridge, so that you can have, some of this for the next few days. Yeah, so that was my experience. Amazing. Yeah.
So, naturally, you said Kwaheri, you're back home now in Kenya. Yes. And it's been, a month almost, right?
Yeah.
Since we spoke. How's that been, Kimani? Not having her at home.
It's tough. I think she was doing a lot of, as part of my training
boot camp
for her. She used to always be the one to make sure that the house is secured. And I started doing this with her when she was probably about 16. And for me, it was always in the thought process of, this is a habit I want you to have. This is something I want you to know, that when you get out there as a woman, you always need to make sure your surrounding is secure. And so we get back, and I think the second night, I'm like, oh no, I forgot to turn on the electric fence. I forgot to do this. And so it was those moments. I think it's also walking past her bedroom door and it's open. It was never open.
Oh man.
So you walk past her bedroom door and it's open and you're like, oh, okay. It's the little snippets of moments we used to talk, laugh, her baking, you miss it because you wake up and there are days she would bake like really lovely queen cakes. Yeah. So it's the small moments that you really miss about her presence that you begin to ask yourself, okay, now she's gone. So what? And then also now realizing that the connection, you just have to call to talk to her or she has to reach out. But yeah, it's those small things, you're there, this hasn't been done or this, or you just tell her, look, okay, take care of your sisters, we've gone. Now you have to start thinking, okay, now, do we get a babysitter? How do we manage this? So it's those tiny things that add up to a lot. Yeah. And then there's the worry part, right? So you get home and you're like, is she okay? Yeah. Is she eating well? How is she faring? Because there's that period where you've left her, and now it's also her getting used to you guys not being around.
Correct. The settling in as well.
Settling in on her end as well. So those two kind of are shaky, you're worried, is she okay? How is she doing? Has she gotten to class? Is she managing her time properly? Has she implemented what you've been talking to her about? So there's that worry bit, but there's also that bit of, oh man, we miss you in the house.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. How has your relationship with her changed?
I think we're even closer. Yeah. One of the things I told her is just check in with me. Yeah. Twice a day.
Much? But
Good morning. I woke up well, and my day. Yeah. So she forgets. Yeah. But then I find that because Malaysia is 5 hours ahead. At about, like when I'm in the thick of my meetings, like at about 11, I see her call coming in. Yeah. So if I don't have a meeting, I pick up that call because I'm excited. And then she has a thing of saying, can I tell you something? I'm like, yes. Then she says, today I discovered this tennis court. I can do X, Y, Z. But the week after we left, she was lonely. Yeah, the first weekend. Because she had done everything. She'd done her laundry. She'd done her grocery shopping. Then I told her, turn on the camera. Yeah, I just want to see your face. So she was hiding her face. I'm like, let me see your face. Then I told her it's been a lonely Saturday. Then she says, how do you know? So I had done a stint in Ethiopia. And there's a time I was away from my family, so I'd come home every 2 weeks. And the weekends were the hardest for me. And I had to look for things to do. So she said, yeah, you know what, now my friends, everyone has something that they're doing. So we talked through it. Then I asked her, what can you do next week if people are not available? Yeah. So I said, you tell me, because I had told her, you've not given me feedback on tennis. We are willing to, pay for you to, start your training again. You've not done your paddle. So anyway, it's up to you. There's a gym there. We've not had. So that's when she came back and said, now on Friday, she had a list of what she wanted to do. Then there was a church that we'd also been told about. She went alone.
amazing.
She took a Grab, went alone. She was late, but she went. Last weekend, she sent me a text. She says, seated on time, I am doing my full hour. Yeah.
And church is great. That's how I integrated as well. They take you on, the way in Kenya here, they do tea after.
Yeah.
So there they have a eating culture. So they take you along to eat with them. And you then get local friends and you get to connect even more. So encourage her to hold on to the church angle. So look, just before you left, obviously, I think you and I spoke about the fact that you did get some assistance in kind of refining the choices. Is there any value in working through or working with someone to do the application, or is it easier to just do it yourself?
Lots of value. Getting someone, to walk that journey with you. And the reason I say there was a lot of value, Kimani and I are busy.
You're busy.
Yeah. Like when we look at, everything in our professional lives, and then outside of that, we have 2 other daughters getting involved in what they're doing as well. What I liked about this guide is they had partnered with her school. And all they do is they ask the student to have a very clean email address. And then after that, now they take over. They actually work with the child. And what I found is they have relationships with the university representatives in the different universities. So the guide we were using had multi-country experience. So they had experience in the US, in Canada, and Malaysia. And those were the countries that, that we were looking. And they would actually say, like for Canada, we know your child's personality, because they get to meet the child as well. And you actually get out of that equation, send them to the office, they do the application together. The only part we get involved is paying. So I found that, especially even housing, when she was quite specific, this is what I'm looking for, I want, my bathroom. And we had to work with a guide, and she had to call and find out this particular unit, can she cook? What is available there? So I found a lot of value in having that particular guide. And sometimes they do have credits with the different universities. So if there's an application fee to be paid, you actually don't have to pay it, because they do have those credits. So for me, I found lots of value. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason I ask is because this is something that we are offering at Craft Ed. And I think in addition, Kimani and I were having a conversation around, over and above having the application support, how much more valuable would it have been if you had someone based in Malaysia
Oh, yeah.
who's stationed there to kind of check on your daughter every so often. And that's something we also will be doing. But Kimani, tell me, what was your thought around that?
I think that would be a huge, even for us, it would have been a huge value add because you are going into a new city. You're going in, there are very many new things that you face when you go there. Fortunate for us, we're lucky enough to take her. But even as parents, you're taking your daughter to a new city. You have to A, learn the culture, B, learn where to shop, C, learn where to get bargains and values, and even slowly begin to navigate the medical space,
Correct.
the housing space. If you have somebody who can walk you through that journey and who is a contact, a friend who is there, who can really help you, then you begin to, it helps you as a parent knowing that she's safe. I have one of my colleagues is in Asia Pacific. His son is also, he's in Singapore. His son is studying medicine in Malaysia, but in a different district.
Yeah.
But he has a lot of friends and family in Malaysia as well. And so as we were talking with him, he's like, yeah. If you ever need anything, let me know. I'll sort it out for you or I'll help you. Now, getting that full package for me is unbeatable. I would say it's unbeatable because as a parent, you want to know, look, is she okay? Is she sick? Even if she tells you she's sick, it's just, hey, can you just help her get to a doctor or help her get to a chemist? And that is unbeatable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, if you had to make this decision again, would you still make the same decision?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we would. It's early days. The one thing I wanted to say is for international students, if you do not attend class, there's an 80% threshold attendance.
Yeah.
If you miss that, chances of getting your visa renewed are very slim. And then they also have a pass mark. Yeah, 50%. Yeah. So I was telling someone yesterday, we were at an event, and she says, I like that because that they are studying and they're going to class.
They have to study.
They have to study.
You and I know how it used to be in some of these countries. Somebody would go and just disappear.
Yes.
And so that's not a concern in Malaysia at all. They'll be deported if they don't.
They'll be deported, yes, for sure.
I think from my perspective, Malaysia definitely value. So you have to look at, I look at the value, right? What we are paying
Yes.
vis-a-vis what the education the child is getting. And then on top of that, the cultural inferences, right? Like you were talking about, you see families eating in the mall, you see people close together, and then you add on to that the weather. So for me, I'd make this decision all over again because I'd say yes, because the country itself offers you a lot of value.
Yeah.
And the small things that Wambui is talking about, knowing that the child has to go there, has to attend class. The one thing that I also saw in Malaysia is we call them our children, but she's a grown-up.
Correct.
And the university was referring to her through everything we did.
Yeah.
It's her email address. She's receiving the invoices. She's the one who has to register for class. So it's teaching ownership at another level.
Correct.
And that is what you really want for your child. So they begin to have that ownership level at that point in time. It's different, but I would say yes, all over again to that.
Wow. Thank you so much. I'm happy for you guys. I'm looking forward to hearing more about how she's progressing. That is an area that she's gone into that is definitely going to have a lot of value in the future.
Yeah.
And we're excited for her. I think what we at the Craft Catalyst, through our business Crafted, is looking to do is really bring these conversations more and more to parents, so that they can make these decisions with confidence. And you've really helped us think through that. And so we're really happy to work with parents through these decisions. And like I said, we do have a partner on the ground to really support with these adjustments that are likely to be there for many parents as they make these decisions. So thank you so much. We're truly honored that we have parents who are fresh from this experience. You literally took your child to Malaysia a month ago, and so this is really, really a real experience, and we couldn't have asked for better guests on the podcast. So thank you very much. And
You're
asante
most
sana.
welcome.
Looking forward to meeting you, parents. Asante.